If your coin total is mudded after Team of the Year and you want to get some back, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get 5% off all your orders. This supports the channel greatly, and I do very much appreciate it. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some 4-1-2-1-2 custom tactics and player instructions. Just before we get into it, I would like to apologise if I sound a little bit down today. Those of you that have been on my channel for a while will understand that today is a very important day for me. It marks 5 years since my father passed away, so I'm not here to mope around. I just wanted to give an explanation if I do sound a little bit down. But yeah, like I said, today we have some 4-1-2-1-2 custom tactics and player instructions, and I'll probably say these are the most popular ones on my entire channel, and this makes me so happy because it means you guys don't like to park the bus. So yeah, it makes me super happy guys. But just before we get started, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, as that does really help with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And if you do want those cheap FIFA coins, make sure you check out the link in the description and use my code Rema for 5% off. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to use balance. This is the same for every formation I use. The reason for this is you have the greatest control over your defense, so you can press when you need to press and you can drop off and be more conservative when you need to be. So it gives you the very much needed balance, as the name suggests, which is super important when you are playing against those higher rated opponents, because yeah, you do need to have that control. That being said, if you do feel more comfortable with press after possession loss, for example, go right ahead, but I do suggest getting used to balanced if you can. Now moving on to width guys, I actually have this on 38. The reason for this is FIFA 23 is obviously a narrow game, so it's important that we do defend in a primarily narrow structure, and because this will defend in a 4-4-2 like I will show you in the player instructions, we can get away with using an even lower width than usual because we have the 4 defenders, the 4 midfielders and the 2 strikers, so it's already got a bit of natural width, so we can get away with that lower width. So yeah, I do like 38 width on this formation. As for the depth guys, I actually have this on 72. The reason we have this on 72 is for the automatic offside trap. This stops one of your defenders always running off compared to your other ones, so they don't play them all onside. You keep a very nice line, which is super important. I think it stops your opponents being able to cheese those through balls. It also allows you to win the ball higher up the pitch, which is super effective with this formation because it is very good for those quick counter attacks. So 72 depth works very well for me. That being said, if this is too high for you, then go right ahead and lower it. It is completely fine to do that. Now moving on to build up play guys, I have this on fast build up. This is because the 4-1-2-1-2 is a very quick formation. You do have to play quite quick with it to make the most out of it, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the 72 depth. So with the 72 depth, we obviously win the ball higher up the pitch a lot of the time, and fast build up means because we're winning the ball higher up the pitch, we can catch our opponent off guard. It means our players are making those quicker runs, so we can really exploit the spaces that the opponent leaves from attacking. So it does work very well having fast build up with 72 depth. Now moving on to chance creation guys, as always I suggest direct passing. This is just because it is the best option to use. I'd say this is the most important setting in the whole video. The reason for this is if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the white dots, which are your attackers. They're constantly moving around to break through that defensive line, so you do create a lot of chances. If you look at something like balance, that really doesn't happen. The defense is very static, your attack's very static, not a lot happens. So direct passing, super important. Now for the attacking width guys, because this is a narrow formation, it makes sense that we want to attack in a narrow style. So we have the attacking width on 35 because this goes very well with the fast build up setting. Because we use a lower width, which means our team is more narrow, our players are closer together, which means it's much easier to link up those quick shorter passes, especially with the fast build up setting. What you'll find is if you use a higher width with this formation, it'll play like a 4-1-2-1-2 wide, which we really don't want, and with fast build up it's very ineffective because your players are very far away from each other, meaning it's actually hard to start those quick attacks because there's a greater distance between all your players. players. So I do like having my width on 35 for this reason. Now moving on to players in box, I just have this bang in the middle on 5. The reason for this is I do want to create some chances and I do want to get some players into the box, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit my entire team to the point where we get counter-attacked if we lose the ball. So yeah, I like to have this on 5. As for the corners and free kicks, I just have this on 1 because I don't really cross the ball from set pieces anymore. I take them short, and yeah, I do have a corner video if you guys want to see that, to see how I take my corners. For the players you want to use, guys, because this is a 2-striker formation, you do have a bit more freedom in the 2 striking positions, because what I usually say is with a 1-striker formation like the 4-2-3-1 for example, you have to go for the balance in the 1 player, because you have to compensate for the fact that there is only 1 striker instead of 2. In the 4-1-2-1-2 you can kind of get a balance between the 2 players instead. So what I like to do is in the left striker position I have a more technical player in Di Maria, someone that can play as another creator, and then I have Robbie Keane as the other striker, someone who is more of a poacher and their sole purpose is to finish off those chances. So I just like to go for a balance between the 2 strikers. For the cam, I do suggest a very technical player, someone that can dribble, shoot, pass, basically do a bit of everything, because they're your main playmaker in this formation. It's important that you use a competent cam because otherwise you are going to struggle. Now in the right centre mid spot, I do suggest a more box-to-box midfielder, so somebody that can attack and defend. So I'm using the flashback Paul Pogba. The ideal work rate for this player is a high work rate because you get the maximum contribution in attack and defence, which makes this formation work really well. But for example, this Pogba is a high medium, but he still works very well because of the great stats. So don't worry too much about the high work rate, it's just an added bonus if you can get it. Now for the CDM, I do suggest a more defensive player, someone that's going to stay back, break up the play and add defensive support. The ideal work rate for this player is a medium high work rate, so I'm using the flashback Jorginho, agent Jorginho, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, the ideal work rate for this player is a medium high work rate because it gives them the most it gives them the highest contribution in defense and they're not really bothered about attacking. But again, don't worry if you can't get a medium high work rate. Now in the left centre mid spot, I suggest an attacker, somebody that is very good on the ball, so I'm using the SBC Jorginho. You could use somebody like Messi, Neymar. You want somebody that is a really good attacker in this spot because they're actually going to add contributions to the attack. You don't really need to worry about this guy being a midfielder because you'll see how this works in the player instructions. Now as for the fullbacks, I like to go for a balance between the 2, so I have one more attacking one in Roberto Carlos, someone that is a bit more able on the ball, and then I have a more defensive fullback in Cafu, just so we have a bit of a balance between the 2. As for the centre backs and goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as possible, and yet again Chesney is still in goal for chemistry. Now moving on to the player instructions, guys, on my left striker, the striker that I said is my more technical player, I have stay central and mixed attack. I just completely leave him alone except for stay central. Stay central is important because we don't need this player drifting off to the wings. We need them to stay central. We need them to get involved. If they drift off to the wings, they're not really going to help us too much, especially in that striker position. So stay central is very important. We have him on mixed attack because his sole purpose isn't just to finish those chances. Sometimes we need him to play as a bit of a creator, so we don't just want him running in behind all the time. On the right striker, our more poacher striker, we have stay central again because we don't need him drifting off to the wings, and we have him on getting behind, so he's always making those runs to get into the dangerous areas to finish off those chances. So this player could run in behind, for example, and Di Maria could sit a little bit deeper and play a through ball in. So that's just the dynamic we have between the 2 strikers. Now on the cam, because I said this is going to defend like a 4-4-2, we have the cam on comeback on defense, so we will come back to defend as a right midfielder. So we'll have Jorginho left mid, Jorginho left centre mid, Pogba right centre mid, and Chiesa right mid. The reason we do this is the 4-4-2 is just a superior formation defensively than the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, so it just makes sense to make it defend in that way. We leave everything else alone because we don't want to restrict this player too much, and yeah, very simple instructions on the cam. As for the right centre mid, the more box-to-box player, we have stay back while attacking and cover centre. Although he's a box-to-box, it's still good to have him on stay back while attacking, just so we have a bit of extra support by default. When we do want to go forward with him, we can just trigger a run forward, but it just means we're not always going to be over-committing our entire team at all times. So it's important to have the box-to-box player on stay back while attacking, I think. That being said, if you really just want to go for it, you can put him on balanced attack. Another important setting is obviously cover centre, so he does defend defend as one of the middle centre mids in this 4-4-2 thing we've got going on. Now for the CDM, we just have stay back while attacking and cover centre, because we don't need this player to attack, we want him to stay back, and we have him on cover centre, so he does defend as one of the centre mids in this 4-4-2 thing we've got going on as well. Very important we have cover centre on. Now for the left centre mid, the attacking player, we just have default settings and get into the box for cross. This is so he does get involved and acts as another attacker, because he is an attacking player. You know, we're just using a winger, for example, in this position, so we have him on get into the box for cross, so he does get more involved. Cover wing is super important, so he does defend as a left mid in the 4-4-2. If we have him on cover centre, it will mess up the whole 4-4-2 thing, so we do want him on cover wing to defend as a left mid. As for the fullbacks, I actually have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. Now, I used to have these on balance, but I've noticed it's much better to just use the D-pad tactics when you want to send these forward, because that way you're a bit more defensively sound. So we have stay back while attacking and overlap on both the fullbacks, and when we actually want these players to attack, we can just use the D-pad tactics in game to put on the attacking fullback, so we can trigger it on and off whenever we want, so we do have more control over our fullbacks. Overlap is super important, because when these do go forward, they add much needed width to this formation, because it's very narrow by default, so sometimes we do need that extra width, which is why the fullbacks on overlap is super important. If you guys aren't very good with using D-pad tactics at all time, you can put these on balanced and it will pretty much do the same thing. You just might notice that they overcommit a little bit too much by doing that. So yeah, make sure you have the fullbacks on at least overlap, and if you want to put them on balance, go right ahead, but you do definitely want to utilize your fullbacks in this formation. As for the centre backs and goalkeeper, we just completely leave them alone. But yeah guys, that is everything for the video. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And if you do want those cheap FIFA coins, make sure you check out the link in the description and use my code Rema for 5% off. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all later. Peace.